All right, welcome to lesson 4.1, Going for Gold, a cycling champion story. So as always, we like to start with our warm-up. So let's go ahead and actually jump into Amplify. Where it says, not that. No, not that either. Here we go. To prepare to watch a video, students think and write about what they already know about the practice of blood doping. Soon, very soon, I promise, you will watch, maybe you already watched it, I don't know, it's on my YouTube channel, it's on the lesson. You will watch a video about an athlete whose improved performance has led some to suspect him of blood doping. Think back to what you have learned about the blood doping process. What do you remember about how blood doping works and how it could affect cellular respiration? That's what you're supposed to write right here. What do you remember basically about blood doping and how it could improve cellular respiration? So go ahead and do that and then come back to me. All right, and now you are supposed to watch that video. So go ahead, I think it's just over 2 minutes. Takes you just over the 2 minutes. Watch that video and then come on back to me. So what do you think? What are your initial thoughts? This Jordan Jones character from 35th to 1st. Well, that one intern seems to be pretty suspicious. Yeah, what do you think? I mean, what does your gut tell you? Well, you know what? Who cares what your gut tells you? We want to know what the evidence tells you. But do you have any questions, though, about Jordan Jones? Like, knowing what you know about blood doping, what kinds of questions would you ask? What kinds of things would you want to know? Well, we are going to have a whole discussion about this. We're going to look at some evidence. We're going to evaluate some evidence. You are going to come up with your own explanation, your own decision on what you think is behind Jordan Jones's increased performance. So here we go. We will examine evidence to try to determine what Jordan Jones did to increase his performance so dramatically. Then we'll have a whole class discussion called a science seminar, in which you will share your evidence and debate whether or not Jordan might have been blood doping. I wonder, wouldn't it be exciting if, we had some evidence that we could look at? Ooh, we're going to get there. Considering evidence and claims and discussing your thinking is all part of scientific argumentation, one of the most important practices used by scientists and doctors. Well, we have some claims that we're going to look at in just a moment. But is there any other explanation besides blood doping? I mean, some people might want to sensationalize the story and say, oh, it was blood doping, and, to sell newspapers, right? But is there another explanation for, I don't know, his increased performance? Could he have done this without cheating? Well, how did the athlete increase his cellular respiration and improve his performance is the Chapter 4 question. This is what we're trying to get at. The National Biking Association has made some claims about Jordan Jones's improved performance, and you'll need to determine which claim is best supported by the evidence. You'll see the National Biking Association, they have 3 different claims, and they are running the gamut of like, hey, it could have been this, it could have been this, it could have been this. Again, we are the ones that get to look at the evidence and decide what we think happened. So if we go to number 2 here, here's our claims right here. Claim number 1. Jordan Jones increased his cellular respiration and improved his performance by blood doping. We know how blood doping works. Claim number 2, Jordan Jones increased his cellular respiration and improved his performance by changing his pre-race meal to a pint of his own blood. Claim number 3, Jordan Jones increased his cellular respiration and improved his performance by training at a higher altitude. Well, okay, that's interesting. Training at a higher altitude. I think we talked about this. In fact, we're going to talk about it in just a second. You're about to read about blood doping and high altitude training and what are the connections there, because they can look kind of similar. So now we will reread part of blood doping messing with metabolism to win races to get information about 2 of the 3 claims. First one, Jordan Jones blood doped, or 2, Jordan Jones trained at a higher altitude. Altitude is a measure of how high something is. When considering something on Earth, altitude is measured by how high it is when compared to sea level or the level of the sea. Sometimes altitude can be a measurement of how high something is just from the surface of the Earth, which isn't always at sea level, right? So you have to be specific. But most often altitude, you can use it this way, also known as elevation, actually, the distance above sea level. Okay, so high altitude, what happens at a higher altitude? Well, at higher altitudes, there's going to be less oxygen. So high altitude training is done at or above 2,400 meters or 8,000 feet. The air you breathe at this height has less oxygen. This causes your body to change in ways that are described in the article. What kinds of ways? Well, read the article, find out. As you reread the sections catching blood dopers and an alternative to blood doping, you'll annotate the text, helping answer the questions. There are some questions down there. So reread those sections, answer the questions, and come back to me. So next, we are going to be looking at some evidence that we have about Jordan Jones to start us off on this journey of deciding, do we think that his increased performance is due to blood doping or other methods? So we will start by evaluating some evidence about Jordan Jones. Remember, in order to reach conclusions and make strong arguments, we need to use high quality evidence. So first, you're going to determine whether or not the evidence is high quality. I have 6 pieces of evidence for you to look at today, and you're going to be evaluating them. But let's start off by practicing. So let's read this actually really quick. Higher quality when it is based on more data. Remember when we looked at Elisa's evidence that she had, the journals that she kept, and when we looked at teenagers and their sleep patterns, and we said, hey, if there's more data, it's better evidence, okay? So the patterns we see, we can trust them more. So again, we are going to practice with this. Let's go ahead and read it together. Here is our example. So we have 2 examples. Number 1, example A. A person ate a ham sandwich and ran a race. She finished in first place. Here's our claim. The ham sandwich was the reason she won, and she should eat ham sandwiches before all her races. Makes perfect sense, right? Well, let's look at example B. A person ate different meals before 20 races that he ran. For 10 races, he ate spaghetti before the race and finished in either first, second, or third place. For the other 10 races, he ate fried chicken. Ooh, that sounds good. And finished in second place once, but finished in 6th or 7th place in the rest of the races. Here's the claim. Spaghetti helped his performance, and he should eat spaghetti before all his races. Which claim is based on higher quality evidence, A or B? Hey, can we just say B, right? Why? Because it's talking about more races. And we have evidence and data from more races. How many races in total? 20. Whereas in the first one, we only have data from 1 race. So even though the claim might not be correct, we still want to look at other factors as well. We do have more data, so it is a stronger claim. This brings us to the homework, evaluating the evidence. So like I said, I've attached 6 evidence cards to this lesson, A through F, and I want you to look at each one of those, and I want you to see, your main goal today, I want you to see, can we just throw some of these out? Is there any evidence that we just really look at and we say, you know what, this just is not good evidence. This is not going to help us make a strong argument either way. So evaluate all of those cards, read them all, of course, and place them in order of which ones you think are the strongest and which ones you think are the weakest. Make a note of that because we're going to be coming back to this evidence in order to make our final claim eventually. So again, evaluate them. Which ones do you think are going to actually help your claim? Which ones do you think are just kind of worthless? All right. Hey, after that, you're done. Congratulations.